Hey Sketchy friends, so back with day 2 of the 7-day Urban Sketching at Home challenge. And day 2 is all about sketching something that's in a cupboard or on a shelf, or like me, something on a countertop. So it's flexible. So this is my kitchen counter that I am drawing here. And I'm really challenging myself with this one. So that's what I meant in the first video, where we're kind of doing the same prompts, but I'm trying to introduce some additional challenges, especially to those of you who've done the original challenge, or that may be slightly more advanced. You may want to just throw some extra challenges at yourself. If this is your first time round or you're a big beginner, then please feel free to ignore the additional challenges and just do what makes sense for you. So for me, for this particular sketch, I was thinking I'd like to do something kind of minimalist. So for any of you who've seen my YouTube video about minimalist urban sketching, it was released quite a long time ago now, but I share some of my favorite sort of minimalist sketches in there. And one of them is Diego Cruz. So I really was kind of trying to think about his style. I don't know how he does it. It's magical. He can just draw not that much, but it just looks amazing and almost tells the complete story of where he is or what he's doing. It's a real skill. So that's what I was trying to have a go at here. And also, if you notice, I'm not using any pencil. I'm going straight in with pen. So that is my second challenge to myself as well. So I was a bit nervous doing this one because I really very rarely draw straight in pen. I do usually map things out with pencil. It's just my comfort zone. I don't really see anything wrong with doing that. But obviously, for the sake of speed and spontaneity, drawing straight away in pen is something that is useful to be able to do. So there's your guest appearance from Tashi there. So do feel free to also challenge yourself with this. And remember, you don't need to show anybody what you do. Like obviously I'm showing you guys because I'm encouraging you to do this challenge. But I did say to myself whilst I did this drawing, it's like, if it doesn't turn out that great, there's no pressure on me to actually share this with people. And that's not to say that I should only share things that work out with you guys. I do try and share everything, and I do feel that, especially at the beginning of my journey with sketching, I was sort of sharing everything and kind of pointing out what I felt like I did wrong, in the hopes that it would help you guys to identify those mistakes in your own sketching or to avoid those mistakes. So I was fairly committed to sharing this either way, but I think to take the psychological pressure off myself, I was like, yeah, if it's crap, don't worry, like we'll just try again. So that's what I kept repeating in my head. And you'll notice here, because I'm drawing in pen, I'm using a lot of sort of reference dots just to kind of like get some placements right. So just where the edge of counters are or where the wall is and stuff. The difficulty with this sketch was I just didn't know where and when and what to stop sketching. That is definitely the tricky part with the minimalist kind of vibe. So all along I was like, right, I know I'm going to start with with the olive oil on the right hand side, and I'm probably going to finish with the cat food box on the left hand side. This is just the collection of stuff that's on our kitchen counter. But then it was like, do I draw the bricks behind this stuff? Do I draw the wall in? Do I draw the stovetop on the right? So you can see I've just put a sort of L-shaped frame for the edge of the stovetop on the right. Do I draw the wood grain in the counter? Do I draw the cupboards below the counter? So it was like really difficult to know where to start and stop, and how much to draw and how much not to draw. So that is definitely the challenge for this particular sketch. Also, because I was sketching into the corner, it was trying to get the positioning of the items so that they felt correct on the countertop. And I can't say that I do sketch these kinds of scenes very often, so it was very alien to me. I actually felt very uncomfortable during this drawing. I think once I'd got sort of the main elements in, probably around here, I was feeling a little bit better. But yeah, it's quite tricky. And again, because there's so many items and they're overlapping, it's difficult to... You have to start drawing the stuff that's in front of the other stuff first, if that makes sense. So, for example, the jar that I just drew, at the moment I'm drawing a box, but right next to it, I had to draw that first before I could draw the item that sat behind it. It's not a huge deal if my lines overlap, and I think I did that right over on the right-hand side with one of the olive oils, but it's not a huge deal. But if you can, it's good to draw the things that are in front first and then draw the things behind them. That also offers a visual reference point. So if you draw one thing, then the next thing that sits next to it or behind it, you can draw in relation to the first thing that you drew. So something like this is quite tricky, trying to get all of the different items in sort of relative proportion to each other. It's definitely not an easy type of drawing. And again, something I'm certainly not used to doing, but I actually, once I sort of let go a bit, I actually started to have fun with this. Also, I was having a bit of a nervous breakdown in my head about just drawing straight in pen and making mistakes and stuff. So yeah, there was all kinds of stuff going on for this sketch, guys. So again, you don't have to do what I'm doing. This is just what I've decided to challenge myself with this. But if you feel like pushing yourself outside of your particular comfort zone, whatever that might be, then please go ahead. You might be very comfortable with drawing straight away in pen, and that's fantastic. So here I'm just getting a thicker pen and putting some thicker lines underneath most of the objects, just to show that they're sitting on the countertop, just on the edge of the counter, the underside of the counter. You can see Tashi is circling, desperate to get on my lap at any given opportunity. Yeah, so that's the drawing side of things. And now I'm just using my watercolors. And because I'm sort of sat on a chair, balanced on my lap, and I'm trying to film and everything, I thought, well, let me just use my water brush, because it's going to be a hell of a lot easier than using a cup of water with a brush and stuff. So this is a prime example of a particular situation where I would use a water brush. So anywhere like where I'm cramped or it's unsteady, so for example, like on a plane or something, perfect time to use a water brush. Also, I'm just adding very small amounts of watercolor to this drawing. So the water brush is perfect for that. I'm not doing any big washes or anything like that. So as usual, I'm trying to paint in everything that's kind of the same color at the same time. Just makes things a little quicker, a little more efficient. And in some areas I will add some darker shades at the same time, but obviously with the paint being wet, they will sort of seep into each other. So towards the end, I'll go back over and just add in any darker bits again. But any bits of texture or something like I see that like that, I'll put in now. And I definitely don't get the exact right shades for everything I want during this sketch, but as long as I've kind of got the mid-tone, the dark tones, and then the white of the page for the highlights, then it's all good. And I do talk about that in a recent YouTube video that I did on my channel. Those are really the three things that you need to pay attention to when you're painting something like this, just so you can convey depth and just to make it look as interesting as possible, really. So I've just mixed up like an interesting grey there with a madder rose with just a cold red and a blue, which I do think is actually indigo. Yeah, indigo. And just makes a more interesting colour than just using a flat grey or a watery black or something like that. If you can make your greys from blues and pinks or blues and browns, that kind of thing, it just makes it look a bit more interesting, a bit more dynamic. So I've added the red of the container in the corner there, and I just wanted to add a few little dots of red around the sketch as well, just to balance it out. So on the loaf of bread there and a bit on the cat food box, it might not necessarily look exactly like that, but there is definitely red on that container. So I've just added some, just because it makes the sketch look a bit more balanced. And now I'm going around and adding some shadows under things. So I'm paying attention to my scene as to where the shadows are being cast. And again, just using that kind of purpley grey colour that I've already sort of mixed up. You can see how it just anchors everything to the counter. So don't be afraid to add little shadows like this underneath your objects. It will really make it look much more convincing. Now I'm looking at this and it's like taking all of my willpower not to like paint the rest of the scene, and I'm starting to kind of add a few extra bits in. This requires a great deal of constraint because I was like, well, maybe I should paint the counter, maybe I shouldn't paint the counter. I definitely debated that for a good few minutes, and I settled with no, I'm going to go full minimalist, as minimalist as I can be anyway, and see how that pans out. But I'm just really trying to put a lot of detail into the items that I have drawn, and then the surroundings I'm just leaving very, very empty or suggestive. I've just got a white gel pen here, just adding a few little touches. There was a label there that I forgot to keep white, so I'm just going over that. Just trying to add a bit of lettering on the packaging, but it's obviously very small, so it's just more indications than anything else. And then just for my final sweep around, I'm just looking for any areas where I can add some much, much darker bits. Again, something I spoke about in a recent YouTube video. The one thing that can really make your sketches so much better is making sure you really add the dark bits in. So it's going to be subtle here, but anything in any area that I can find, and it's mainly on the green sort of bottles and stuff, I'm just looking for any opportunity where I can add some darks. And then I toyed with this idea for a while before I eventually went for it, because I thought, well, we could always compare what the sketch was like before I did this. But I decided that I'd go around and annotate all the different items. And actually, now I've sort of seen the finished result, I think this actually just makes it much better. I think it makes it more whimsical and more fun. So I'm really happy I did this. I really like it. But you guys can tell me in the comments what you think. Did you prefer the sketch without the annotations, or do you prefer the version with the annotations? I'd be interested to know, because it's quite a subjective thing, really. But I think it does add like a nice bit of storytelling into the sketch. And yeah, just looking around just to see if there's anything I can improve. But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, actually. As I said, it was a bit of a psychological battle, this one. And I've never really done a sketch like this. This is very different for me. So I'm glad I kind of channeled. I was thinking of Diego Cruz, and then I was also thinking of another reportage illustrator called Olivier Kugler. If you look up his illustrations, yeah, kind of had him in my head as well, so he's well worth checking out. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'm really looking forward to seeing your sketches. Do please share them on Instagram with me. The hashtag is 7DayUSK at Home 2025, and I will see you for day 3.